We're loading on into the next game. I do apologize for the downtime, and I appreciate everyone sticking around. It's not going to be a laser versus creator. That's going to be covered on other streams. There's another fantastic Korean Protoss versus foreign Zerg. In this match, the Korean Protoss, pardon me, is Zest. Still rocking the clan tag for Scythe, but unfortunately they did disband. And now his opponent, the Swedish Zerg, it's SortOf, playing for Team Cascade. So I do apologize for that, all that downtime, guys, but sometimes that's just the way it works. There's no lobbies and whatnot. Like, it's sort of like trying to hop onto a moving train, trying to get I know that's a pretty extreme analogy for trying to get into a Starcraft 2 lobby, but that's kind of what it's like. SortOf sends his drone out, sees stats probe, parks him right on at that hatchery location. Standard stuff. Gateway on the way for stats, or Zest, pardon me. I'm gonna get messed up, guys. There's no doubt about that, since I was planning on casting. I was looking into casting stats versus who? TLO, I want to say. Yeah, I was looking into casting stats versus TLO, and then Zest versus SortOf, and a laser versus creator. And this is the one we got on into. I mean, there was a lot of options, but it's like, okay, I just gotta cast something. Can only wait so long. Zest got his probe hanging around here, being a nuisance, harassing SortOf's workers. SortOf has to pull a drone off the line in order to send that probe packing. This is what you do when you're rocking hundreds of APM. You harass the poor Zerg's drones by changing the mineral pathing by right-clicking on the patches. SortOf continuously having to redirect this. This is just Zest being a pain. It's just a little bit of harassment that you can do. Maybe it costs your opponent to have a unit a second later or something like that. And I mean, it's free. It's free damage, so why not? Probe moving back home for Zest, though. He knows that the Lings are on the way. He's going to hang out till those Lings get out, then like a run on out. The Adept's now crossing the map, though. So this is just opening up like a normal ZVP. Adept is going to be shading across the map there. Going to be harassing, SortOf. Lands on in a natural. Queen pops in out, though, so the Adept has to back off. Second Adept, though, is crossing the map, though, to join up with her friend. Cancels that shade. Probably going to want to regain a little bit of shields if he can. And then shade on in with these other Adepts. We'll see. These Adepts are going to try and run on in towards the natural. Chasing these Lings, chasing these drones. Picks off one Ling. Going to just simply shade on into the off zone as far as the creep goes. Picks off a drone, gets a few Lings. Nicely done for Zest. Not game-ending damage or anything, but if he can get out with the Adepts after getting this bit of damage, that is very, very nice for him. Then, of course, the standard Stargate follow-up. If you want to know a standard ZVP build, take notes. The two Adepts actually get a creep tumor, which is fantastic for Zest. So keeping the pressure on. This is just Zest. He's an absolute mammoth of a Protoss player. Zest got out a Stalker, gonna kill off this Overlord here. Meanwhile, going double gas behind this, so gonna be getting up a lot of tech likely behind this. For now, just one extra gateway, got the Stalker in the wall, the Adepts behind it, and a Robo follow-up. This makes me wonder if it's gonna be either an Archon drop following up the Oracles, or say like a charge lot timing or something like that. 3 drones actually going down, the 4 to this Oracle, so that's actually a nice bit of damage. I mean, the Oracles you usually are just so casual about it. It's like, okay, the Oracle comes on in it, gets a bit, and then gets on out. Nice bit of harassment, though. Oh, actually kills the drone and the Spore. Fantastically done by Zest. So Zest already sort of playing with SortOf a little bit here. I mean, 4 probes is a fair bit for the first Oracle to get on in, so that Spore a little bit mistimed. Queen's not quite in position, and that is fantastic for Zest. He'll capitalize off every little bit of that. Now, Zest is still on 2 bases, though, getting up a Twilight behind this, getting up a Warp Prism and 4 gateways. No Protoss with good intentions does that. We may see a Templar Archives go down, as Zest is still mining a lot of gas, but here comes in the Oracles, gets on into the main base. 3 more drones go down. So just trying to punch SortOf, or just sort of trying to rock SortOf a little bit, and then eventually push him over with this large attack. There's the Templar Archives on the way. So this is going to be a very common attack. Archons and tons of Zealots going to be moving towards SortOf. SortOf has a Roach Warren on the way, but he's already taken a fair bit of a beating to his economy. 8 drones is going to make any defense harder. And that's the whole point, is Zest killing these workers early on. Oracles fly on in. Now here's Zest with his Warp Prism. Going to be warping in the first few Archons. Already getting a Zealot with it. There's the Archons morphin, and then SortOf could be in a lot of trouble. He's got 8 Roaches on the way. Roaches are very good at holding this kind of attack. However, it looks like the Oracle's planning on coming in while this is going on as well. And there's the Archons loaded up into the Prism. Going to probably pick off this Creep Tumor. Nicely done. And then this is where it becomes rough for SortOf. He's got to hold this off. Gonna start bruising up these Archons, but eventually once charge is done, Zest likely just gonna warp in an absolute ton of Zealots. He's got a 3rd base going up behind this, so he does have somewhat of a transition plan behind this. This is just the very standard Protoss build. Oracles come on in, take a bit of a beating, but they do get 2 more drones and get on out. Now here comes in all the Zealots, all the Archons, and this is where SortOf could be in a bit of trouble. He's got to pull all of his Roaches together. 15 Roaches might be enough to hold on to this. However, some Roaches possibly going to be getting caught off by these Zealots. Roaches are now working away in the Archons. Zest can always micro those back. The question is, how much damage does SortOf take? He puts the drones on hold position to mess up the AI targeting there, and the Roaches do send this packing, so SortOf able to hold on for now. Zest not getting critical damage, and Zest producing Immortals back at home, starting to build probes, getting up sentries, a Forge. I imagine we'll maybe see Blink or something else on the way. Maybe another Robo and then Psystorm researching, something like that. Because Zest's attack did not kill SortOf. SortOf, he took a... It wasn't tremendous damage, all that Oracle harassment, but it was significant damage. So it was nicely done by SortOf, being able to hold this off without taking anything more. However, these Archons are now coming on in, and the question is SortOf going to be able to get rid of this? Looks like an Overlord going to pay the price for hanging around there. Few Lings are going to be looking for a bit of counter damage, but Sentries in position, Oracles hanging over that 3rd base. That's their local hangout at this stage in the game. Oracles usually assigned to defend that 3rd base. Few Queens were trying to march on out, try and catch that Prism. Would have been a nice find, but unfortunately not so for SortOf. Hydralisk Den here on the way for SortOf. Hydra's a very good unit, there's no doubt about that. Also getting up Roach speed though. And I mean, like, Roaches, the problem is they get countered by Immortals. Hydras do not, and that's what makes them so good. Immortals, of course, are alright versus Hydras, assuming they have the correct amount of support, and they could even be argued as good versus Hydras when they've got the correct amount of support. But for now, Zest just pushing out. 7 Hydras on the way, some Archons. I'm not sure Zest is going to be able to break SortOf here. Like, he's just producing units non-stop. He's only on 3 bases, so it's not like he's got a 4th that can be harassed while this is going on. And he's got an absolute ton of Roaches. No Ravagers, though, to break force fields. So this is where it could become rough for SortOf. The lack of Ravagers means that these Roaches, they can be force fielded out. We'll see if he morphs in a Ravager or 2. There's just 1 Ravager going up. We'll see if he manages to squeeze out 1 or 2 more. But for now, SortOf is just making as many units as possible. He knows Zest is coming in, and Zest is coming in with absolutely everything. Zealot's trying to close the distance here. However, the force fields, in a way, do work against Zest. It prevents the Zealots from coming on in. Zealots are clumping up on the front. Drones are even being planned to pull on into this. SortOf knows that he really needs to hold this attack. +1 wasn't quite done for Zest at the time of this attack, so a bit of an anti-timing for him. However, it's still looking pretty good. Drones are starting to fall, so Zest may just be able to push on through here. Units are rallying out here for SortOf. 15 Roaches on the way, but I'm not sure if the Roaches are going to be able to be up to the task. On the right side, the Roaches may be able to win out here, but another big warp-in going on. There's still 3 or 4 Immortals here, and the Immortals warping in with Zealots. That's just going to be all that Zest needs. SortOf knows he is done for. GG gets called. Well played by Zest, SortOf. That defense, I don't know, maybe he needed like 1 or 2 more Ravagers to knock down the force fields, or maybe he needed more Hydras or something, because Hydras put out a lot of DPS in the back, or maybe like even like an EVA wall or something to try and prevent the Zealots getting on top of there. That is something that does happen. So we'll get on into the next game. Thanks so much to everyone for tuning on into my coverage of the IEM qualifiers. These are the most important qualifiers of the year, I'd argue. Maybe that or WESG, but these are some important qualifiers. You make it into this, you get into the second stage, and we are loading on into the next game. Of course, SortOf is living and training in Korea currently, so we are on the Korean server for this match, because it would be a bit silly for the two players to have the high ping to NA when they're both in Korea. But here we are, spawning down the bottom right-hand side of the map. He got himself a 1-0 lead. Very standard Protoss attack and timing, just very well executed, because, you know, he's Zest. And his opponent spawning up in the top left-hand side of the map. It's SortOf, playing for Team Cascade. Maybe he just took a little bit too much damage there early on, because, I mean, like 8 drones or something is like that early on. 4 drones from the first Oracle is a lot. You usually maybe get 2, 3, something like that, but it's just little things like that, and then the entire game is built off that foundation of the openings. Probe is moving across the map for Zest. As far as the build go, very, very standard stuff coming out of both these guys. I mean, the last game was pretty much standard from A to Z. I mean, SortOf's choice to make that many roaches was interesting. Maybe should have tried to start up some more Hydras sooner. But I don't know. That's a tough call for SortOf. Just, you redo that game with him, say, losing 2 drones to the Oracle instead of the 4. And it's just completely, and it could have just been all the world of difference. Zest once again being a nuisance with his probe. Messing with SortOf's mining and whatnot like that. Of course, the Ling escort, making sure that this probe goes on home. A few more crossing the map. I love this for SortOf. The 2 Lings crossing the map, trying to get on into Zest space. Depending on the timing, sometimes the Lings can sneak in here, but we do see that Zest has rallied the next Adept to the back of his ramp. So the first Adept going to be scouting, but the second one likely just going to be staying home because he knows that Lings are a possibility out on the map. But SortOf, all of his Lings, where are they at? That Adept just scouting out, but it is just that one Adept. There are those 2 Lings. But Zest, he did keep that one Adept back at home, so it's going to be able to shut down these 2 Lings. They'll get on in. They'll see absolutely nothing thanks to this Adept that's hanging out. Of course, SortOf doesn't know that's there. Gonna see the Stargate. Stargate in PvZ, nothing that's super like big as far as revelations go. It's like, oh my god, he's building a Stargate. No, you see one of those pretty much every single game. Double gas on the way for Zest. We could honestly see the same build coming out of him once again. Overlord getting shut down. I mean, as far as the opening goes, this is identical. We'll see whether SortOf, how many units he's gonna lose to this Oracle that's crossing the map. I mean, Zest is one of those Korean Protoss players that have really honed their Oracle practice. I wouldn't be surprised if back in the days of Kesby he spent days just focusing on his Oracle practice under a strict regime or something like that. But no, it's actually a second Stargate on the way for Zest. I'm not going to click on that just yet because I'm curious to see what this Oracle can get. Drone could be in trouble. 1 drone goes down so far. Queen getting into position though to deal with this Oracle. No drones actually going down yet. So this is actually exponentially better. The Oracle even taking a fair bit of a beating on its way out. So a much better defense starting things off for SortOf. Now, the concern, though, is the mass Phoenix that are going to be following us up. You guys may think, all right, if you guys have ever played Protoss in Starcraft 2, you may have tried making something like mass Phoenix, and then the Zerg, they attacked, and then they killed you. The way this build works out, though, generally is if the Zerg attacks with roaches, you're generally fine because you have a good enough Phoenix count that you can lift them up, whittle them down, and then be fine. Which is sort of like an unusual thing, because that's how a lot of players will react to this build. They'll try and attack. As it is still a fairly new build as far as StarCraft 2 goes. Some builds have been around ages, like the 2-1-1. Like the Reaper Expand will never go away, things like that. But this Phoenix build, relative as far as everything's considered, like, it's pretty new. And so Zerg players still sort of figuring out the best way to deal with it. Sort of spots the Phoenix, gets a little bit of a heads up, which is nice. He's producing 3 queens at a time. Spore Crawler's on the way. Of course, it is very tough not to lose anything to this many Phoenix because the Phoenix are so tanky. And this is a bit concerning for SortOf. 2 Overlords are going to go down now. Overlords are not cheap, guys. They cost 100, just like pylons, just like supply depots. We already see a Hydra Den on the way for SortOf. That's really the best anti-Phoenix tech. Now, these Phoenix are flying on in, and it looks like they may be able to catch a few drones. SortOf pulls them back over, and Overlord still does go down. Drones running towards the Spore Crawlers. The defense for SortOf is definitely not bad this game, though. Bruising up the Phoenix actually gets one of the Phoenix is a very nice move. I mean, 5 drones have gone down. The Overlord death has been a little bit concerning. 6 going down. This is exactly what a Protoss player wants, and this can actually get out of hand pretty quickly here. Zest is already planning up his follow-up. He's got 3 Nexus, so that basically means he can just produce a lot of probes, saturate that base. Double Robo on the way. Meanwhile, SortOf, he's contained. He's cramped on into his base. And until he has Hydras out, he really won't have that freedom to shut down these Phoenix. I mean, he's done a decent job, but I mean, the Phoenix, it's very tough, like I said, to not take any damage. Here comes in the Phoenix, lifting up 2, 3 unfortunate drones. So far, 14 have died. I love this for SortOf, by the way. Look at this. There's nothing that makes me more happy than a Zerg player, or really any player, just having vision like this, like spotting anything that's moving out on the map. These Phoenix, though, they massacre that one Ling. We have yet to see a 4th base start it for SortOf, and he's actually going right into Lurkers. Which, okay, I can really get behind because it does look like Zest is going to be powering up for another big attack. Double Immortal on the way, Templar Archives charge, and Lurkers. That's like a good way for SortOf to really head this off. He's already invested in the Hydras, getting up a 4th base. And so I really like this from SortOf as opposed to staying on like Roaches and Hydras or something like that, or trying to squeeze out a desperate amount of Banelings. Lurkers are very good defensively. +1 attack on the way. You'd maybe have to ask a Zerg player how effective that is. It definitely does well for Hydras. As far as Lurkers, I don't know the exact math on anything, like how many extra shots does it take to kill an Immortal or something, but Zest also going to have his +1 relatively soon, Psystorm on the way, and a 4th Nexus. This is what I like out of Zest, because he's actually really respecting SortOf here, not just trying to go for like a big 3-base attack. SortOf's getting up a Spire and a Hive, by the way. But the fact that Zest is like, all right, I'll throw up a 4th base before he even shows any indication of moving out, shows a lot of respect, partially for the map. Parasite, a very large map, moving out on something as big is not that easy. And by the way, oh my god, look at this, guys. How beautiful is that shade of yellow on Zest Phoenix? Just not letting that many of them die. How many have died? Okay, 3 have died. But all the others, they've been taken excellent care of. Not getting to critical injury or anything like that. Zest already planning on getting into an air composition, though, getting up a fleet beacon. Maybe this is just for a mothership core or something, or a mothership. I'm always going to be doing that, guys. I didn't even cast back in HOTS, but it's still just in my mind. Now, Zest moving out with his Immortals, or just maybe faking it a little bit. SortOf's got 5 lurkers on the way, a Spire on the way. Now this is something that I'm really excited to see because SortOf, he's one of these European Zergs, and European Zergs, they generally do pretty well with the late game. And so we'll see how he's able to manage Zest. I mean, if you were playing this 3 years ago, you'd say, oh, well, the Zerg's probably dead. I mean, late game Protoss is pretty darn good in PvZ, but I mean, SortOf, we'll see if he gets out lots of spellcasters or things like that. He's getting out a greater Spire already, so Broodlords are on the cards. Tempest are on the way for Zest, but no one really knows how effective these new Tempest are, because these Tempests, they're so weak. They're like the same old Tempest. They're faster, but they're weaker. So as far as like poking and prodding goes, they're more efficient, but in straight up fights, they are not. So this actually really benefited Corruptors. Zest getting a Dark Shrine on the way. I definitely love to see that, but SortOf ramping up on the static defense. Very important to do. That is, if you're a Zerg player, that is how you win my heart. You build a ton of static defense, because how many times have we seen Zergs say they defend one attack perfectly, but then a bunch of Zealots kill off a base? Something like that. Vipers on the way. Vipers and Corruptors, they're the main anti-air for Zerg. They really complement each other very well. Adrenal Glands also on the way for SortOf, and he's approaching max out. He's got 82 drones, which is very healthy. And Zesty's teching up into this army, but I mean, versus Broodlords, Immortals and High Templar are not going to help out too much. I mean, the High Templar, they can always throw down Psystorms on lurkers and things, but the Broodlords really force that extra step of an answer, which it says, all right, I got to make some Tempest. But then there's Vipers, so what do I do? Do I just commit more to air? And we're actually seeing Zest go into carriers. Okay, this is interesting. 5 Stargates up, by the way. Wait, I can't count. 6 Stargates up on the way. So Zest, he's going to be able to make carriers, and guys, the new carriers, they build fast. They are so quick compared to the old ones that I think they're 26 seconds quicker than they used to be. 26 seconds in StarCraft 2 is a long time. Now Zest is still looking to poke on in, but SortOf getting up static defense, which I love. Broodlords on the way. Only 4 Broodlords have been made so far. Well, he's already got up 2, pardon me, but I love the fact that he's not making like 20 Broodlords and going for a desperate attack or anything like that. We could be having ourselves a long one here. Ling's gonna get on in. Okay, this could be the first of many run-bys. Ling's getting on into the base of Zest. These guys have Adrenal Glands here, so they're gonna massacre probes. The DTs will shut them down, though. But still, 4 probes, nicely done. Although Zest is maxed out and building a bank, so he probably actually doesn't mind that. More static defense going up for SortOf. I love it, I love it, I love it. And we could be seeing a very late game here. Neither of these players are really showing a big inclination to go for a massive attack. Of course, Zest is testing the waters. Because, guys, if we sat down pro gamers right now, I think the consensus may be that late game Zerg is pretty darn good. I wouldn't say it's fantastic. There's still a lot of room for Protoss to make good moves. But as far as sitting back goes, we see there's a reason why SortOf's comfortably sitting back and not desperately trying to kill Zest right now. Zest is the one who's really moving out on the map, seeming almost a little bit anxious. These lurkers for SortOf are a very powerful harassment tool. However, in this case, they're not going to be looking so hot. Those 4 lurkers caught this other lurker. He needs to burrow if he wants to stay alive, but that Oracle going to annihilate him there. And these other lurkers, they want to stay in that stasis. Unfortunately, they cannot control that. So what a game we have here. We're seeing pretty much everything being researched. DT Blink, Protoss Air, Shields, Normal Blink, and DT Blink. Banelings being made. Looks like SortOf's planning on going for a counterattack. And the question is, does Zest have enough static defense? There's a fair few Banelings that are getting ready to go for this attack. Lings are moving across the map. Zest has got to be thinking, all right, I got to defend this, but there's actually a lot more coming in with this attack. Banelings rolling forward, Hydra stepping forward. Zest actually opts for a recall. Banelings are going to crash on in, and SortOf is actually forced back. That recall definitely all that Zest needed, bringing those Tempests and everything back. Those revealed Lings actually sort of betrayed the rest of the army, but looks like an Oracle gets snapped off there by the Corruptors. Nicely done. These Zealots and Immortals, pretty ambitious, chasing this army. May actually turn and take this fight. I mean, this is just Immortals versus Lings. Like, Immortals are good, but Adrenal Gland Lings are pretty pretty good versus him. Neural Parasite on the way. I love this. I mean, Neural, it's pretty good these days. Oh, SortOf's got to be careful here. His Corruptors and Vipers could actually be caught off guard. Oh, this could actually be absolutely a massive mistake here. He's surrounded by High Templar. He's going to be able to abduct a carrier, but then runs on out. And these Corruptors are actually in trouble. They got to try and escape somehow, but these carriers and Tempest are going to be working away on them. So this is a pretty expensive loss. This is like 2,000 resources here at least in Corruptors. And they got to try and escape. Okay, they should get out. Getting bruised up. None of them have gone down though. Actually, Nab's up an Observer. That's nicely done. SortOf still on 5 bases. Zest on 5 bases. There's 3 more bases for each player to take. But of course, the more you expand out, the harder it becomes. Anabolic Synthesis, that new Ultralisk upgrade. I mean, you guys may be saying, why is SortOf thinking of Ultralisk when there's carriers in the air? I mean, Ultras, when they have +3, it takes carriers. This might only just be a slight exaggeration. It takes carriers roughly 1 billion years to kill an Ultralisk. Because the Ultras, they're just so tanky, their armor is so high, and the way carriers attack, like an Ultra with 7 armor. Now we see SortOf looking to move on out, but I'm not sure he quite has the Corruptor count to be able to engage us. 10 carriers, 4 Tempests versus just 15 Corruptors and 3 Vipers. Not up to the task, I don't think. So these players still sort of figuring out the composition. Every game has an early game. Most games have a mid game. But the later it goes, the less and less experience players have with this. So this is just uncharted waters for pretty much everyone involved, I think. Well, not as frequently charted waters. Lots of creep being cleaned up here by Zest. I'm zoomed out, so I feel my FPS is dropping. As this game is going late. I'm gonna need to make a new account just for casting and such. DTs, nice bit of harassment, knocking off this base. That poor drone gets chased down. These DTs could be forfeit though. And DTs, they're not cheap units, so they will get caught by SortOf, assuming these Lings ever go for them. Oh, they have Blink, so he tries to make an ambitious dive, but does not make it out there. Look at that. Upgrade-wise, though, where is SortOf's missile attack in Carapace? That's a question. He hasn't been going for that. And I mean, we know he's got the money. And if you're eventually going to make Ultralisks, you do want the Carapace upgrades. So the lack of that for SortOf might be a bit of an oversight. Zest's now moving in. I mean, he's clearing creep. Both these players are being so sort of passive towards each other, but I mean, there's not even any infestors out for SortOf. Like, it seems he's still sort of making up his mind as what he wants to make. He's still got Hydras and Lings and other things. He may even want, I don't know, dump off some Queens or something, but yeah, I'm not sure that SortOf's aware or really sure of what he wants to get. 4 cannons here. Lings may be able to deal with this, and Overseer's even being brought, so these DTs could be dealt with, but no, there's actually just a perfect amount of cannons to deal with this. A few Hydras and Banelings come on in. These Hydras, they put out a lot of damage, going to be able to clean up these cannons. I mean, they can start massacring a lot of probes. 2 Hydras kill probes pretty quick, even after their attack speed nerf, but Zest does come back to deal with that. Both these guys just building up a bank. This is actually such a passive game. We do see a big recall going down for Zest. Recalls the majority of his army. A few Broodlords were sent on the right side. They are going to be forfeit, though. So that's a pretty expensive loss. Resources lost. SortOf is behind. Zest is playing more efficient, but I think it may be time that we see, say, some Infestors or something going up, but we're actually seeing 4 Ultras for SortOf. He's getting up that +2 Carapace, by the way, which is a must, but I mean, also a bit of harassment going off. Zest lost 24 workers. That's no small amount. Killing off Nexus and stuff, they cost money to replace, so it's definitely worth it for SortOf doing this. However, now, Zest is coming on in, and Ultras aren't going to help him kill this air fleet, which eventually, whether you like it or not, you have to bite this bullet and engage it. So I think more Infestors or something would be good for that. He's looking to maybe abduct something. The Tempest getting a shot up. Looks like a carrier or 2 gets abducted. The Corruptors picks off none of them so far. That carrier is actually going to get on out just about. Okay, no, they do get picked off. Looks like the Vipers did go down, though. This counterattack's getting a bit out of hand, though. Hydras may be able to snap up those High Templar, and they will. That's a very nice find. Storm gets baited out, but Ling's still dealing a lot of damage. The Dark Shrine goes down. These expensive buildings are going down. A single Mutalisk, that must be a misclick, I have a feeling. Now, just this counterattack still going on and getting a bit of damage done. Nicely done. However, I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to deal with that. These units just run right on by. Zest's got a base in the bottom left, but I think this counterattack is probably done for now. So resources lost. SortOf killing off all those buildings did help him out a little bit, but I mean, he's got all these Ultras and everything, but they're going to have to be pretty much exclusively used for counterattacks, while he's still got to be thinking of how you deal with this. I love the Ultras for counterattacks because they just destroy through cannons and everything. But you still got to deal with this eventually, SortOf. You got to be thinking, how am I going to deal with this? He's now hitting in multiple locations. I love this. Ling's going to catch out these Zealots, and Lings do beat Zealots generally in this fight, particularly when the Zealots aren't fighting. However, there's still this big counterattack going down. Zest does defend that, though. Units are running for their life. Those Lings cleaned up most of those Zealots, but not able to take it any further. A lot of Changelings hanging out on the ground. This is a late game, there's no doubt about it. Looks like SortOf, he had that base for a time, but that gets snuffed out. More Zealots were warped in. One Ultralisk shows up. I'm not sure how this fight's gonna go. That Ultralisk, oh yeah, so many move commands here. That Ultralisk will escape though, got a lot of health. But here comes in Zest, he's moving on in. Only 18 Corruptors. No Infestors is the thing that has me concerned for SortOf. I mean, 1 Fungal Growth does wonders on the army. Neural Parasites. Like, it's definitely doable to just take out an entire army with this. And now SortOf, I'm a little bit concerned. Ultra's engaging, but there's Void Rays in the sky that are also going to help out versus the Corruptors. And SortOf, yeah, I'm worried for him. I feel as if maybe he just didn't make the right composition. 15 more Corruptors on that feels almost desperate, but just Corruptors without, say, some Infestors or anything rolling forward. Now we're seeing SortOf going for a big counterattack. A Zealot in here with the Lings is definitely going to, or I mean an Immortal in here with the Lings is definitely going to help on out. Lings and Zealots are trading out. Looks like they get the better end of that. Zest's main base could be in a bit of trouble as Lings spill on in. They deal a lot of damage. But look at this. Zest is just knocking out SortOf's bases now. And SortOf finally making Infestors. But, I mean, if there's ever been a time that's too late to make Infestors, it is... I mean, I guess better late than never, right? But if these were made and had been building up energy for... They could have been doing that for a long time, and now suddenly it's just a whackload of Corruptors trying to deal with an air army supported by High Templars, which I think is pretty much a never-win situation for the Zerg player just because of the Psy Storm. It's going to really shred through these Corruptors. It's a lot of Corruptors out for SortOf, but he's going to need fantastic splits to deal with this. And Infestor comes forward, doesn't get off a Fungal, just SortOf's bases really have been cut in half. He's got 8 more Infestors on the way, but apparently he doesn't want to wait. SortOf's just going for it, diving right on top of this army. Can he do it? Psystorm's blanketing all over. Carriers and things starting to be focused down. Is it enough for SortOf, though? The supply would tell a story that it is not. Zest takes the 2-0.